we talk about this next law, I want you to be aware that there are certain types of cash transactions that will be required under federal law to be reported to the federal government. And as you see on the screen here, the United States Treasury, they have oversight over the Internal Revenue Service. So the IRS is actually a division of the U.S. Treasury. And certain types of transactions will have to be reported to the IRS within 15 days. And this does not just apply to licensed motor vehicle dealers. This applies to every single business owner in the United States. So what are we going to have to report to the IRS? As you see on the top part of the screen there, we're going to have to report anytime someone brings in more than $10,000 cash to pay for a vehicle. So I want to repeat that. If someone pays for a vehicle with more than $10,000 in cash, you're going to have to report that to the IRS. We're also going to report this next one here. Any combination of cashier's check, money order, bank draft, or traveler's checks when they total more than $10,000. I'm going to kind of explain that here in just a second. I'll show you how easy that one is. Do you report it within 15 days when someone writes you a personal check for a vehicle that you're selling them? No. There's no red flags with a personal check. Or maybe somebody's done a wire transfer from their account to yours to pay for a vehicle. Well, there's no red flags as well on that one, and the bank's going to catch that transaction. But what we as dealers are going to have to report, we're going to have to report anytime someone pays for a vehicle with more than $10,000 in cash, or let's take another look at this second one on the screen here. Any combination of cashier's checks, money order, bank draft, or traveler's checks when they total more than $10,000. And I'm sure you're probably aware of this, but a cashier's check, money order, bank draft, or a traveler's check is what we refer to as a verified payment, okay? So in order to get a verified payment, your customer will need to physically walk into a financial institute, such as a bank or a credit union, to get a verified payment. So if your customer just brings in one verified payment to pay for your vehicle, there's no red flags there. But let's just say, for example, that your customer brings in two or more verified payments that total more than $10,000. Well, in that scenario, that customer has went into multiple financial institutes that day to get multiple verified payments, and that does throw up just a couple of red flags with the Internal Revenue Service. So let me give you an example that will easily explain this one. Let's say, for example, you've sold a $12,000 car. And let's say, for example, your customer brings in one verified payment. Let's say they bring in one cashier's check for $12,000. Well, there's no red flags there. We don't have to report a combination of verified payments. But let's just say, for example, that you sell that $12,000 car and you've got a customer that brings in one cashier's check for $8,000 and one money order for $4,000. That's a combination of verified payments that total more than $10,000. And in that scenario, that customer has went into multiple financial institutes that day to get multiple verified payments. So whenever we have one of the transactions that fall under this category, we are going to have to report it to the Internal Revenue Service within 15 days. And we can easily do it with this form that you're going to see right there on your screen. This is called IRS Form 8300, okay? Now, this form can be downloaded all over the internet, okay? But I do want you to be aware, whenever you have a transaction that falls under one of these categories, the first thing you need to do is you need to report it to the IRS within 15 days. But not only are you required to report it to the IRS within 15 days, you are also required to notify the customer that you reported that to the IRS, and they've got to receive their notification before January 31st of the following year. When in doubt, fill it out. When in doubt, fill this form out, okay? The federal law also requires that you report suspicious activity. So let's just say, as an example, let's say I come into your dealership and I start asking you, hey, how do you report cash here? Well, to me, that is suspicious activity. So I would go ahead and report that after the customer leaves. So you're supposed to report anytime there is suspicious activity, no matter what the amount, okay? So you have to make sure that you've got this taken care of. Now, there's two ways you can easily file this. On the back of this form, when you download it, you can either mail this version that you see. It's going to go to what's called the Detroit IRS Computing Center, and the actual address is on the back of this form. But you can also do this online at the Department of Treasury's website. So there's a link that's on the back of this form that's going to show you how easily to do this. So this is one form that we cannot have oversight on, and forget the oversight on, because it is a federal law, and they have extensive federal penalties if you do not report this. Also, I'm not trying to sell you software, but if you're using a software program, it's going to track the type of payments that have been made on a vehicle that you've been selling, and it'll automatically print this form up if you do have to actually report it. So as an overview, I want to remind you, if somebody pays for a vehicle in your dealership with more than $10,000 in cash, or if somebody brings in a combination of cashier's check, money order, bank draft, or traveler's checks, and they total more than $10,000, then we're going to report those transactions. You've got to notify the IRS within 15 days. You've also got to send a notification to the customer before January 31st of the following year. And once again, this is a federal document, and we're going to have to keep it for a minimum of 5 years. So if you have any questions, there's an 800 number on the back of that form you can call. But remember, cash transactions must be reported to the IRS. Cash of over $10,000, combination of any verified payments that total more than $10,000, and also don't forget to report any type of suspicious activity. So please be aware of that. So we've gotten through Unit 8, okay? So in Unit 8, we've covered the Federal Trade Commission Buyer's Guide Law. Remember, you've got to have that form on every vehicle. Make sure you have the customer sign it at the time of the sale. We've talked about having a written red flags policy. So this is also part of the Federal Trade Commission. You've got to have that policy to show how identity theft is reported. Remember, driver privacy protects the privacy of drivers. So you're going to keep your records under lock and key, obviously. The Uniform Commercial Code is a set of rules adopted by most states. We need to follow the United States Patriot Act, okay, to help the United States fight against terrorism. You're going to run an OFAC, specially designated nationalist database search on every single one of your customers on every single transaction. The National Motor Vehicle Title Information System stores title data. And remember, as I just stated a moment ago, certain transactions must be reported on IRS Form 8300. So remember, everyone, at the end of every single video, I'm going to show you the screen right here. If you want to take a look at this video again or any other videos throughout this course, just go back to TexasDealers.com, scroll down to the bottom and click on Texas Dealer Videos.